Hey guys, McCalb here. Hey, I thought I'd put together just a short guide, gonna keep it to just a few minutes on how to do a Barbarian speedrun through normal. There's a competition going around hosted by Mr. Llama, and I suspect that this will be one of the weeks. So I put together just kind of like an ideal Barbarian. Um, this is a level 20 character that I just threw together. I try to put together pretty much everything that's ideal. I try not to go too over the top, but I think uh, you probably don't want to do the speed run with minimal gear possible. So I thought I'd start with just what I would prefer to have if, without going too over the top with finding crushing blow items or anything. But ideally, you use two 3-socket flails. One of them you throw a malice into it, which is ith l eth, and the other one will be tal tal tal. I think this is pretty reasonable damage. It helps for Ancients, Diablo, and Bale. I think it's about as effective as it gets. As you can see, this Malice has open wounds and it reduces target defense, not only as a percentage but also per hit. So that'll help your chances of hitting these extremely high level monsters like level 40 Diablo or level 60 Bale, for example. And then everything else is pretty solid as well. We've got Tal runes. You don't hit Bale too often, so it's nice to have the poison damage rolling as you're trying to get, you know, consecutive hits off. You don't always get it, so it's nice to have the poison damage rolling in the meantime. I think CS is pretty hard to make it through. I recommend higher fire res. If you want to take the route of Nadir, and you have at least some fire res, this might work as well. But I don't know if I'd recommend this, at least for your first couple of times doing a Barbarian speedrun. Cloak of Shadows can be kind of tricky to use. If you practice beforehand, then it might be advantageous to do it. This is probably like a world record strat, but just surviving it using just Rals, I think would be a lot more effective. You don't run into gold issues this way. Um, and I think with Infector and especially with Inferno doing a lot more damage now than it did previously, and with lower res going around, it's it's even worse, which is actually pretty scary. Um, Other gear, I mean I found a small charm that does cold damage. That's pretty darn useful. I wouldn't count that on in a run though. Um, Maybe a little extra damage or extra life here and there. I didn't find too much while doing this run. Um, Something that's different with Resurrected is that poison damage seems to do somewhere around the lines of 50% more damage than in Vanilla or Legacy. So I'd recommend running around with at least two, maybe even three or four uh, quantity 25 choking gas potions. And this honestly will clear really well. Like this is probably how I will default in D2R in the future by using a lot of choking gas. Not only is it good on knights and reasonably good on mages, but it also makes a pretty good dent with demon lords as well, which kind of surprised me when I was practicing around. I think, for each seal, you'll want to clear it out. You don't want to fight the bosses with mages or really with anything else. So I'd recommend as you go through each of the seals, you'll fight each of them, or you'll kind of pile everything up and use choking gas to kill them. You'll want to be conscious of how much gold you have if this is the route you decide to take. It's each of these is about 3,000 gold to uh, replenish, and you'll want probably 15,000 gold in addition to what you normally have, which I would recommend probably walking into Act 4, Act 5 with at least 50,000 gold. A little less, a little more should be fine, but these fights on Barbarian can be pretty long, and you don't want to get you don't want to walk into these later acts unprepared, gold wise or gear wise. This is sort of my recommendation. It might take you an hour in Act 1, honestly. and you might be like level 14, level 15 getting all of these runes, but I think this is what I would recommend. For these flails, easiest way to get them is if you go and purchase them off of Farah. It might take 5 minutes. You can get 2 socket, or you could take a magic set, and maybe we'll get lucky on stream, maybe not. But you can use 3 gems and a magic flail, and you'll get 1 or 2. Wow, that's actually really good. You can get 1 or 2 sockets there, and that kind of solves that issue. This gives you a little bit of an advantage. Level 15 is when you can buy a magic flail, and maybe you can throw your towels in here, or if you want to throw its in, its are pretty solid as well. Kind of helps get through Act 2, Act 3. Uh, really, any rune helps for doing more damage later on. I just default to flails because it makes it nice. You can hit them once. A lot of the strategies you do with Barbarian is you hit once, you kind of hit and then retreat, hit, retreat, hit, retreat. That way you don't die in Chaos Sanctuary, or you know Diablo, for example, could be a pretty hard fight as well. So that's why I recommend that. But really anything will work. Iths, Rals, Tals, all are pretty effective. And even some of the gems, the square gems off of Andy, like a ruby or a topaz, pretty effective as well. Okay, guys, I'll try to be putting more guides out, but thanks everyone, and I hope that your runs are successful.